My name is Rachel Lawson, and if I could go back and erase one moment in my life, it would be the night I looked my husband in the eye and told him he wasn't my first choice. We were in our home in Austin, Texas, sitting at the kitchen table. The room was dim except for the soft glow of the pendant light overhead. It had started as a harmless conversation, one of those late-night talks couples have when the world feels quiet and safe. Ethan, my husband of 6 years, had been teasing me gently, asking if I ever imagined being with someone else before I met him. It was playful at first, a game of what-ifs. But then something in me cracked. Maybe it was the stress of work. Maybe it was my unresolved past, but the words slipped out before I could stop them. You weren't my first choice. The silence that followed was unbearable. Ethan blinked, his smile fading. What did you just say? I tried to backtrack, stumbling over my words. I didn't mean it like that. Before you, there was someone else I thought, but the damage was done. His eyes, usually so warm, turned distant. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He just stood, his chair scraping softly against the tile, and said, I need some air. That was the night everything began to unravel. Ethan Brooks wasn't flashy. He wasn't the kind of man who turned heads the second he walked into a room. But he was steady, reliable, and kind in ways most people overlooked. We met at a friend's barbecue, of all places. I was 27, single, and still nursing the wounds of a failed relationship with Mark Evans, the man I thought I'd marry. Mark had been charismatic, ambitious, the type of man everyone admired. But he also left me broken, choosing a job across the country over a future with me. When Ethan offered me a plate of food that day at the barbecue, I barely noticed him. But over the weeks that followed, he kept showing up at group outings, coffee meetups, late-night study sessions for a professional certification course we both happened to be taking. Little by little, I saw what I'd been missing. Ethan was thoughtful, funny in a quiet way, and deeply loyal. When he asked me out, it wasn't fireworks that convinced me to say yes. It was the feeling of safety, of comfort. And over time, I fell in love. Not in the dizzying, reckless way I had with Mark, but in a way that felt real, sustainable, grounding. That's why those words I spoke cut so deep. Because they weren't entirely true, but they revealed a part of me I hadn't fully dealt with. In the days after that night, Ethan changed. He still came home after work, still ate dinner with me, still asked about my day. But something in his voice was different. Quieter. More careful. Like every word was being measured against the wound I had opened. I tried to fix it. I cooked his favorite meals. I left little notes on his pillow. I even suggested a weekend getaway, just the two of us. But he smiled politely, declined the trip, and said, We'll see. At night, lying beside him, I could feel the distance growing. His body was there, but his heart felt miles away. I wanted to scream, to take back what I said, to erase it from his memory. But words, once spoken, can't be undone. One afternoon, I met Sophie, my oldest friend, at a cafe downtown. She took one look at me and said, Okay, what's wrong? Through tears, I told her everything. I didn't mean it the way it sounded, I whispered. I was being stupid. I thought I was being honest, but I hurt him, and now I think I've lost him. Sophie reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Rachel, honesty is good, but timing matters. Did you love Mark? Sure. Did you think he was the one? Maybe. But who stayed? Who chose you day after day? Ethan. Her words made sense, but they didn't erase the look on Ethan's face when I said what I did. 2 weeks later, Ethan came home late. I was sitting on the couch, pretending to read, but really just waiting for him. He dropped his keys on the counter, looked at me, and sighed. Rachel, we need to talk. My heart sank. Those words, we need to talk, were never good. He sat across from me, his hands clasped tightly. I've been thinking a lot about what you said. About not being your first choice. Ethan, I began, but he held up his hand. Let me finish. I know I wasn't your first love. I know you had a life before me. But I can't live wondering if I'm just second best in your heart. I can't be the man you settled for. Tears blurred my vision. You're not second best. I love you. You're my husband. You're everything to me. Then why did you say it? His voice cracked on the last word. I had no answer. At least, not one that could undo the hurt. That night, Ethan packed a bag. He kissed my forehead gently, almost like a goodbye, and whispered, "I need time." Then he walked out the door. The days that followed felt endless. His absence echoed through every corner of our home. The empty side of the bed, the untouched coffee mug, the silence where his laughter used to be. I left him messages. I wrote letters I never sent. I even drove by his brother's house once, where I knew he might be staying, but I couldn't bring myself to knock. Instead, I was left alone with my regret. Everywhere I went, memories haunted me. The diner where he first told me he loved me. The park bench where he proposed, nervously fumbling with the ring box. The grocery store where we'd argued over cereal brands but laughed 5 minutes later. And all I could think was, I traded all of this for one careless sentence. With Ethan gone, I had no choice but to face myself. I started journaling, writing down every thought, every fear, and I realized something painful. Deep down, I had never truly let go of Mark. Not because I still loved him, but because I had never forgiven myself for how much power I gave him over me. Ethan had paid the price for wounds he didn't inflict. And my careless words were the reflection of scars I hadn't healed. After a month of silence, I couldn't take it anymore. I wrote Ethan a letter, not an apology filled with excuses, but the raw truth. I was wrong. Not because you weren't my first choice, but because you were my best choice. The only choice that mattered. I let my past cloud my present, and I hurt you. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know that I love you. You are not second best. You are my only. I left it at his brother's house, unsure if he'd ever read it. 2 weeks later, I came home from work to find Ethan sitting on the couch, the letter in his hands. He looked tired, older somehow, but his eyes softened when they met mine. "Rachel," he said quietly, "I don't know if I can forget what you said, but I believe you regret it." I nodded, tears streaming. "I do. More than anything." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I love you." I never stopped. "But if we're going to make this work, we need help. Real help. Therapy. Communication. Something. Because I can't go back to feeling like a placeholder in your life." Hope flickered in my chest. "Yes. Whatever it takes. I'll do it." We started couples therapy the following week. It wasn't easy. Some sessions ended in tears, others in silence. But slowly, brick by brick, we rebuilt the foundation we had almost destroyed. I learned to let go of my past, to stop measuring my present against the shadow of what once was. Ethan learned to voice his fears instead of burying them. It took time, patience, and forgiveness, but we made it through. And now, when I look at Ethan, I don't see the man who wasn't my first choice.